Representative Angelika Kausche, welcome again to ITV Gold. Thank you so much for being with us again.
Sure, I'm glad to be here again.
Of course, and I have to say congratulations. You have been re-elected to the position of a state representative for 50th District of Johns Creek. So again, congratulations to you. I would love to ask you, how are you feeling upon this election?
Well, right now I have to say I'm very relieved that this long election cycle is over.
Yes.
So we had some time to take a little break afterwards. So I'm feeling pretty good right now. But as you know, here in Georgia, it stays interesting with the upcoming Senate races in the runoffs. So we're still very aged here.
Yes, for sure. And I would love to get your insight into the Georgia race very soon. But right before that, let's discuss a little bit about your campaign, Representative. You went against a Republican for this position and you were the incumbent for your position. How was that entire campaign run for you and your team? And what was important for you to focus on during this time when we also had the pandemic going on?
Yeah, this is a really great question. So one of the things I want to point out is that my opponent was a Republican and an Asian American. So we had two immigrants in the race, which made the race very interesting and really highlighted the importance of the immigrant community in this district and in the greater Atlanta area and in Georgia. The pandemic really changed how we could campaign. We mainly ran our campaign virtually. So invested a lot of into social media. That was different to what we did before because we were kind of like missing the personal contact because we couldn't go door to door this time. So we had to kind of like revamp our whole campaign strategy to really rethinking how can we reach voters in a safe way because we made it like we really wanted to emphasize that we want to run a safe campaign where we don't expose neither our volunteers nor the voters to any risks. So that was very different.
Yes, for sure. You know, in terms of just talking about your elections, when you were running a representative, what issues, according to you, mattered the most for your district? I know your district is super diverse. It has a lot of South Asian Americans as well. So what mattered to those residents of your district?
Well, what mattered to them most was really driven by the pandemic. It was really healthcare. Healthcare was the number one issue in our district. And we ran on a strong healthcare platform, really emphasizing that we want to bring affordable healthcare to every Georgian. And I think that resonated with the constituents here in my district and with voters. Also, the next thing is, of course, economic development, because many people lost their jobs, businesses are struggling due to the pandemic. So all these issues, basically what the whole nation cares about right now, really is like you see it in a microcosmos in my district.
Definitely. Representative Kausche, what are the current needs of your district when you're looking at the COVID-19 ramification? I'm talking specifically about the healthcare system crisis as well as the economic depression that we're seeing. What are the needs of your particular district 50th?
Well, it's very hard to say what the needs particularly are. I mean, my district is still comparatively doing well compared to other districts because of the economic structure of my district. So most people here, a lot of people here, have access to affordable health care. However, I'm seeing a greater I'm seeing an uptick in the demand for help, for needs. I'm getting more and more calls from people who still have not accessed their unemployment insurance in Georgia. That is definitely a risk. We're coming to the end of the year where the eviction moratorium that was issued by the CDC will expire. So the upcoming So the new year is really causes a lot of anxiety for a lot of people, and many people, even in my district, are struggling and don't know whether they can stay in their apartments, whether they will lose their homes. So it's really the whole spectrum of anxiety that we see in the whole country is really you see it in my district as well. And I have to say the rising COVID numbers right now are very, very concerning. And while we're still not doing as bad as other in the nation right now, it is a very, very big concern here.
Representative Kausche, from the state government, especially because you sit on the Georgia House of Representatives in the state, is there enough help coming from the state level? And, simultaneously, do you also need help from the federal level when you're looking at your district?
I think it has to go both ways. I mean, I think we talked about it before in our last meeting. The state is still in a dire position because we still don't have recovered all the revenues we lost through the pandemic. The upcoming legislative session, one of the big issues we will be discussing again will be the state budget, and hopefully we can see that the revenue situation in Georgia improves so that we will be able to provide more funding for example, for healthcare services in the state, for economic development. And especially when I look at my district, small businesses is a big issue in my district. And I think that we will depend more on federal support. So I'm hoping that the HEROES Act will follow through, that Washington will be able to support another stimulus package, because as a state, we just don't have the financial resources to support our people in the state with the services they need in the long term, especially because the pandemic prolongs the economic fallout for quite some time.
Yeah, definitely. With these COVID-19 cases surely surging across the nation, in Georgia as well, how do you think the governor is handling all of this crisis? And do you believe in the state of Georgia you need a mask mandate? So two-part question.
Well, I think with the rising numbers right now, we need a mask mandate in public places everywhere in the nation right now. It is proven that is the best way to protect ourselves over and over again. I mean, the governor re-emphasizes it himself in every statement he gives, but then he doesn't walk the talk. He goes to meetings and rallies where people are not wearing masks and getting infected. Also, the upcoming holiday season, Thanksgiving, it's very critical that if you can stay at home, please stay at home, because the more we travel, the more we risk spreading virus over a wide area. And so this is all very concerning. So my fear is that from now until, let's say, Christmas, with the rising COVID numbers, we actually will see a worsening of the crisis, which will put a strain on our healthcare system. So I'm very concerned, and I wish that the governor would put out stronger measures to protect all Georgians, and a mask mandate, at least giving us the opportunity to have local mask mandates where we have higher numbers of COVID-19 would be a step in the right direction, but we even can't do that in Georgia right now.
Does your district currently have enough resources in terms of PPE supplies, ventilators, beds for the second surge if it gets really bad? Could you give us a condition of the hospital system and the healthcare system in your district?
Well, actually, I was just trying to get in touch with the CEO of the local Emory Johns Creek Hospital. I haven't reached her yet. My latest knowledge is that so far they are still doing okay. Some of the hospitals in the area are already in diversion mode, but the more the infection number rise again, the more critical it gets, and we are really concerned that we're getting to a breaking point again, where we really don't want to be. So it is critical that we all adhere to safety measures and really wear masks in public places, yes, and social distance, and stay at home as much as we can, even with the upcoming holiday season.
Yeah, that is so true. We all have to take our measures and really take care of this. While we're talking about this, I have to ask you about the ongoing racial unrest that we have seen in the nation. I believe I have spoken to you about this before too, but I would like to know your take on what has happened with, Black Lives Matter movement and the continuation of that movement even till now. How do you suppose to handle the racial unrest that has been here for the whole year in your district especially?
Well, I have to say that it has mellowed down a little bit since the summer. I think just because other issues really surpassed what we have seen in my district. But regardless, the racial divide is still there, and we've seen a national attack on Black cities from the Trump administration, and that really amplifies and heightens the divide, which is really concerning. So, as a state legislator, we as Democrats are more than determined to take on critical issues and fight for criminal justice reform, all things that will hopefully lead to more understanding and more support for discriminated populations or disadvantaged populations.
Yes, definitely. Let's now talk about Georgia, the state itself, because obviously Georgia has flipped blue. One of the biggest news that we have gotten, in terms of all of the states here in this election. I would like to know your own, personal opinion and experience with what happened in Georgia with the recount. I know there's another talk of having another recount for the state of Georgia. Yeah. How are you looking at all of this?
Well, the state did what the state had to do and confirmed the result as it stood before. So we first had the election, then there had to be an audit, and the Secretary of State decided to basically do a hand recount as the audit, and that finished last week and confirmed the state result that Joe Biden, Vice President Joe Biden, is now the president-elect, and those results were certified on Friday. And the Trump administration is just doing what is their right. We have a law in Georgia that if your margin is below 0.5 percentage point, you can request a recount, but this recount will not be done by hand. It will be done by scanners. But it will take a few days and it costs state resources. And I'm a little bit disheartened that we have to do it because we as a state will pay for it. So it's coming out of our tax pocket. And the likelihood that it would change anything in the result is really, really zero. So I think we really should think about, like, even if it's the right of the challenging party to do so, whether it's wise and what's the alternative motive behind doing that, whether you really want to accomplish something or whether it's more to stir further division among the people.
And President Donald Trump has, been very vocally and very in a lot of anger has been tweeting about election fraud, voter fraud. He thinks ballots have been, messed up with a little bit, tampered with. I would like to know if you saw any evidence of election fraud, voter fraud in your district.
No. I haven't heard anything, and the few minor instances that happened that were questionable were all addressed appropriately by the counties and the Secretary of State. And there's really the accusation of voter fraud is just baseless, and the only while the Trump administration continues with this is really to stir division. And I think it is very risky because our democracy depends on people trusting the election process and trusting our election the Secretary of State and our election workers and poll workers. And what we're seeing here is that it really puts a strain on the people who are running our elections, and really the only thing that's happening is that there are a certain kind of people who all of a sudden think they cannot trust the system anymore, and that's very risky for our democracy. And the people who are behind this really need to ask themselves what's their ultimate goal, and if they're really true to their beliefs in protecting our Constitution, because I think they don't.
Yeah. When you are looking at Georgians, how have they been reacting totally on this whole issue? Do you see a divide in the state between President Donald Trump and President-elect Joe Biden, or is it very clear that Joe Biden has been accepted as the winner?
Well, I think the numbers speak for themselves. It is very clear that, and it's now certified that Joe Biden is president-elect, and I don't think anything is going to change this. But there is this idea among people who are not willing to accept this result that the election was fraudulent or has been stolen. So we've seen a couple of demonstrations at the state capitol, and people are in their right to do this, but it will change the outcome. What I'm looking for as a state legislator, what I'm thinking about is like, what do we have to do in the long term to overcome this divide? Where are people getting their information from that they so strongly believe that they have been wronged, where they haven't? So how can we address this? What do we have to change in our way of communicating and educating people about how elections work? And because there even seems to be some misinformation among elected officials how things work. So we have to do a much better job, and I hope that we will address this in the future here in the state legislature, and really come back to that. At least the minimum we can agree upon is, even if we disagree on a lot of policy issues, is that our elections are safe and secure. And that's very important to protect our democracy.
You know, Representative Kausche, when we're looking at Georgia, it became a key swing state in the middle of the election cycle when we realized there was full potential for the state to turn blue. My question to you is, as a politician and as a Democrat that, you know, who is a state legislator as well, what does it truly mean for Georgia to turn blue? What kind of changes are you expecting? Is Georgia moving towards more of a progressive path, according to you?
That is a good question that I've heard before, and today I actually read somewhere. I forgot where, that someone said Georgia is not turning blue; it's more like a swirled ice cream, red and blue on top of each other in a like in one of these ice cream cones, like soft ice cream. And I think that's a very accurate description, because we have blue and red pockets in the state. So the metropolitan areas, the urban areas and suburban areas are definitely more blue, but you go into rural Georgia and you really don't have to go far into rural Georgia, and you are in very red country. And this divide is still there. So as same in Georgia is as we see in many other states in the nation, the rural-urban divide is there. This is what basically and actually divides us, and that will keep us busy for quite some time. So I don't see Georgia to be totally blue. Of course, the election of President Biden is phenomenal, and we are hopeful that we will be successful in the upcoming Senate runoffs. But I would still consider Georgia to be on the path to becoming a true blue state, but we still have some ways to go.
What changes are you particularly going to work on?
Well, we will work on election reform, and as a Democrat in the minority party, we will probably expecting that we have to fight measures coming from the Republicans that would make harder for people to vote. So that will be something on our radar. Personally, I want to go ahead and work on environmental issues here in the state of Georgia, and on education issues, making it helping students in higher education and to better be placed in Georgia and have better access to Georgia colleges, and also in education to really make sure that every Georgian has access to the education they deserve, and we are required to provide them, and that will be on top of my mind in 2021.
Yes, the education system has been in full crisis this year. We still are trying to figure out what is the best method of learning. I would love to know your perspective now on the runoff that we're going to see in January. It is very, very important again for Georgia. If the two Democratic candidates win the Senate, the U.S. Senate will be blue. How are you all politicians in Georgia, especially the Democrats, looking at this race, and what is going on with, raising awareness in that terms?
Yeah, all of us are in one way or the other involved in helping, all of us Democrats in one way or the other involved in helping Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff in the race. So we're basically going back to what we've been doing in the last year or last half year, is campaigning for them the same way we did before: text banking, phone banking, mobilizing volunteers, fundraising. It is a very, very tight election season, and the problem with runoffs is always that people don't turn out in the way they turned out for the general election. So voter turnout is crucial. Another thing we're focusing is voter registration, because if you turn 18 by January 5th, you can register to vote, but you have to do it now, and by December 7th. And then early voting already starts in December 14th. So I feel like we never stop campaigning and voting here in Georgia right now. And the attention we are getting, the national attention, is just incredible and tremendous. So Georgia really has been put on the national map through this runoff election.
Definitely. We are hearing news about voter suppression or intimidation. Any insight on how that would be handled?
I haven't heard anything in my district, but we always are vigilant and cautious, because we hear about voter suppression, or in this election, we're very concerned about voter intimidation at the polls. It did not turn out as badly or as we anticipated for the November election. So I'm hopeful that we will be having a smooth election season until the smooth election. I hear that many people already are applying for absentee ballots, which is great, especially considering COVID. So the trend to vote absentee holds, and then we will see how many turn out in early voting. But one thing we have to make sure is that everybody is safe and feels comfortable in voting one way or the other, in person or absentee, and that they feel safe, not just in terms of COVID, also safe in going out and exercising their right to vote without any intimidation from whomever.
Yeah, that is so true. And again, reaching out to all the Georgians, make sure you vote. January 5th is the elections. It's a really, really big election. I have just a few questions left for you, Representative Kausche.
Sure.
I would love to know your personal experience and your opinion on the Biden-Harris victory. And your opinion on President Donald Trump still not conceding. What kind of a message is it sending across to politicians, and how are you all looking at this entire chaos in transitioning?
Yeah, for me, it's very disheartening. I mean, I was super excited about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris winning this election, because I think it's a phenomenal ticket. And this excitement was hard-earned, because we didn't know until several days, I think it was Saturday, after the election, it was quite clear that Biden won enough electoral votes. I think it is very, very concerning that now that it is a clear path. The path is clear that Joe Biden will be our next president. That Republicans are still not speaking out enough and demand that Trump concedes, because we need to get into serious transition work. And what I think the Trump administration is now doing is sabotaging this transition, and I think that is the first in U.S. history, and it is very concerning. It could affect our national security, and this is where I think the partisanship really should end, when it starts hurting and really hurting the national security, and really attacking our basic rights here and really taking away what should be the right way to do, that is really concerning to me. So I'm very disheartened by the whole process. I speak with my relatives in Germany, and I don't hear good things from them when they look at it from outside. They are very concerned because the United States is still considered to be the leader of the free world, and they are very concerned of any weakening in that leadership on the international platform.
Yes, for sure. We haven't seen something like this for a century, at least in my research. It is quite interesting to see a president not concede and the other president continue his process. I would love to know your opinion on the mandate that President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Harris have laid out. It's mainly focused on COVID-19 ramifications and uplifting the community and vaccine distribution currently. How are you analyzing everything that he's doing so far?
I think he's doing a great job concerning the circumstances, and we already can see where this new government will go. It will be really enter calmer waters, more structured, more targeted, more really fact-based communication coming from the White House. COVID, of course, is on everybody's mind. That will be his highest priority, has to be. But I'm very confident they started is that they are working on rebuilding the trust of the American people in the system, and that was what he needs to do right now. So I'm hopeful and very, very inspired that the way he's handling it, the whole ticket is handling it right now, considering the really extraordinary circumstances under which they are operating.
Yeah, definitely. You are a woman and you are an immigrant as well. And we see, Kamala Harris as the vice president-elect. She's half South Asian, half African American. How, are you looking at that particularly? And what kind of a message do you think, at least, that image is sending across the nation?
Yeah, I think it's fabulous. Not just that she is a woman, but that she is a woman with really a diverse background. Being African American and having this Indian heritage, this speaks to so many people in this country about the possibilities. And she is an incredible role model. And here, especially in my district, we have a lot of South Asians here. They feel inspired by her nomination and now being the vice president-elect. So I'm very hopeful, very, very excited about what she will bring to the ticket. And I think she will be a strong second person right next to Joe Biden, and will give him a voice will be a voice for people who felt like they before did not have a voice. So I'm super excited about her.
And finally, my last question to you is, what are your hopes for your district while you are going into January? What are some of your concerns, and how do you hope to combat that?
Well, my district is struggling first and foremost with COVID, so I hope that we manage to stay as safe as we can. And the other thing is that's on my mind is we are going into 2021, and on the state level, this means we're going into the time of drawing new districts, and that will be a very interesting time. So it will occupy us a lot next year. And I am a little bit concerned how this will play out in terms of how will my district look like in 2022. It could be very different. So that's one thing I'm keeping an eye on. And of course, right now I'm thinking how I can, after times of campaigning now, change gears and really just be a representative and reaching out to all my constituents, Republican, Democrats, Independents, and see where the issues are, and maybe doing my part on bridging the divide. And because I think we all need to step up and really really make the effort to talk to the other side, see how we can listen to each other, understand each other, and maybe come to some sort of understanding that all our worries and concerns are not so far apart, and go back to that we really talk about the issues on a less emotional level.
Truly a time to heal and unite as a nation. I wish you the very best, and congratulations again, Representative Angelika Kausche.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you again. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being with us.